Let's talk about something that businesses get wrong all the time: understanding where their money really goes. We're going to dive into a method called activity-based costing, or ABC for short. And trust me, it's designed to shine a light on those sneaky, hidden costs that can absolutely wreck major business decisions.
So here's what we've got lined up. We'll start with why the old way is totally broken. Then we'll get into the big idea behind ABC and its two-step process. From there, we'll see how it grows into a management tool, and we'll wrap up with a quick reality check on its limits. All right, let's jump in.
Okay, first up, the old way is broken. So you might be asking, why did we even need a new method in the first place? Well, let's take a look at what's so wrong with the traditional way of doing things.
So, let me ask you this. Are hidden costs misleading your business decisions? I mean, imagine you're running a company. You've got a bestseller, a product everyone loves. You assume it's your cash cow, right? But what if it's not? What if all the little costs of supporting that popular product are secretly just demolishing your profits? Well, that's exactly the kind of mess that old-school costing methods can get you into.
All right, so here's the fundamental flaw with the traditional way. It takes all those overhead or indirect costs, things like rent, electricity, the salaries for admin staff, and it just smears them across all the products. Usually they just base it on how many units you make. It's honestly like taking a big glob of peanut butter and trying to spread it evenly over a whole loaf of bread. Yeah, everything gets a little bit, but it's a total mess and tells you nothing about which slice actually needed more peanut butter. This one-size-fits-all thing just doesn't work for complex businesses. It gives you a totally warped view of what's profitable and what's not, and it kind of just assumes every single dollar you spend is creating value, even when it's really just paying for waste.
Okay, so that's the problem. Now for the solution: a new way of thinking. And this isn't just a small tweak, it's a complete shift in how we look at the connection between our costs and our products.
See, the old way, traditional costing, is super simple. It just assumes that your products directly eat up your company's resources. You make a thing, you attach the cost of labor and materials directly to that thing. Easy, right? Well, yeah, but that only really works for the obvious direct costs. What about, everything else?
And this is the big aha moment. This is what activity-based costing is all about. It introduces this brilliant, crucial middleman, the activity. The insight is so simple, but it is incredibly powerful. Products don't just magically consume resources. No, activities consume the resources. Think about things like setting up a machine, or processing a purchase order, or making a sales call. And then your products consume those activities. That one little extra step in the middle, it literally changes the entire game.
So you get this really clean, powerful flow. Resources get used by activities, and activities get used by products. It is a total game changer. We've officially left that messy peanut butter situation behind. Instead, think about it like making a pizza. The ingredients, the flour, the cheese, the sauce, those are your resources. All the things you do, kneading the dough, spreading the sauce, adding toppings, those are your activities. Now the final pizza only gets charged for the activities it actually needed. A simple cheese pizza doesn't get stuck with the bill for the pepperoni it never even touched. That's the kind of precision we're talking about with ABC.
All right, this all sounds great in theory, but how does it actually work in practice? Well, it all comes down to a really logical two-step process. Step one is all about tracing your costs to the activities. So you figure out, okay, how much of our electricity bill is really for running the machines? That's the machine operation activity. Or how much of the accounting team's salary goes towards customer invoicing? You connect the resource to the action. Then, for step two, you do the same thing again. You trace the total cost of those activities to the products that actually use them.
Now, to make that first link, from the resource to the activity, we need a tool, and that tool is called a resource driver. It's just a yardstick we use to make the connection. So, for example, let's say the machining area takes up about 20% of your factory's floor space. Well, it makes perfect sense to assign 20% of the factory's rent cost to that machining activity, right? The square footage is the resource driver. It's just a logical way to connect the dots.
And for that second link, connecting the activity to the product, we use, you guessed it, an activity driver. And this measures how much a product actually uses an activity. Let's say product A is really complex and needs 50 machine setups. But product B is simple, it only needs 5. Well, it's pretty obvious that product A should carry way more of the cost for the machine setup activity. In this case, the number of setups is our activity driver. It makes sure the costs go where they belong.
And here's the really crucial point.
These drivers aren't just picked out of a hat. They have to reflect the actual cause of the cost. A driver might be related to volume, like plain old machine hours. Or it could be batch related, like how many orders you have to process. It could even be product related, like how many times the engineers had to change a design. The whole secret to ABC's accuracy is choosing the right driver that truly explains why a cost happened.
Okay, so now that we get the mechanics, let's look at how this whole thing evolves from just a better way to do math into a genuine strategic tool for running a business.
And this right here is a really important distinction. Activity-based costing, ABC, is about one thing, getting the numbers right. It's a more accurate way to do accounting. But the real magic happens when you level up to activity-based management, or ABM. ABM is what you do with those accurate numbers. The focus shifts from just calculating the cost of an activity to actually managing it. You start asking the big questions like, wait a minute, is this activity even adding any value? Can we do this faster, cheaper? Or maybe the most important question of all, should we even be doing this at all? That's where you get real strategic advantage.
And this kind of thinking goes way beyond just the factory floor. ABM really forces a company to look at its entire value chain. I mean everything, from the first sketch in the design phase to sourcing materials all the way through to delivery and what happens after the sale. Once you understand the true cost and the true value of every single link in that chain, you can start optimizing the whole system. And that is how you build a serious, long-term competitive edge.
Okay, but as powerful as all this sounds, we have to be real about it. The research is pretty clear that this is not some magic bullet that instantly fixes every business.
So what are the challenges? Well, for one, implementing ABC can be a huge project. We're talking a ton of data collection, a lot of time, and yeah, it can be expensive. Plus, let's be honest, some costs are just really hard to pin down. How do you logically assign the CEO's salary to a single activity? It's tough. The source material we looked at even says that for a lot of companies, getting a truly perfect picture of the relationship between every resource, activity, and product, well, it remains illusory. So it's an incredibly powerful tool, for sure, but it's definitely not perfect. And that brings us to a really interesting final thought from the research. It suggests that maybe the ultimate answer isn't about throwing out the old and just using the new. Maybe it's about developing a kind of hybrid method that takes the best of both worlds. Because at the end of the day, the goal is simple: to really truly understand how profitable each product is. The journey to get that perfect understanding is still ongoing, and it leaves us with a pretty critical question to think about. How much of what you think you know about your own business, or any business really, is actually based on a completely flawed picture of its costs? Something to chew on.